Morning. Welcome to Lifetalks. It's great to see everybody this morning. Are we getting snow today? Tonight?
Let's go.
I don't know if I want to clap
Let's
about
go.
that. I'm not used to it. This is early. This is really early. Oh my goodness.
In the meadow, we can build a snowman.
He's pushing for me to get Christmas up. Who has their Christmas tree up?
Let's go.
Anybody? Oh, there's one. Okay. Yeah, I think I was trying to do it last week and then just getting home from Fiji, and then we went to St. Louis this past week, and yeah, but maybe this week.
That's it. I'll just say,
Maybe this week.
in your face Halloween, I got the nativity scene up.
I saw a meme said something about that how it was showing how the two go together. Thanksgiving and Christmas can blend, and
Right.
I'm thankful. When Christmas is up, it gives me a thankful heart, right? It just makes me happy.
He's the Lord of the harvest.
He is.
We need a blend of a Christmas song and a Thanksgiving song.
Jordan overfloweth its banks all the times of the harvest.
He's got a sermon
When the
for it.
opposition to your
This
promise,
is how bad he wants Christmas up.
when the opposition to your promise is the greatest, the potential of your promise is the greatest.
Oh my.
Oh man.
It was a land that flowed with milk and honey, but it only flowed with milk and honey because the rain came
Yeah.
and brought a
Yeah.
great harvest, which
Preach
is
it,
what
preacher.
also caused Jordan to overflow its banks.
Yeah.
The thing the thing that you think is your enemy keeping you out of your promise is the very thing that's producing your promise. Give Jesus glory.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Okay, I'll put it up today. I'm ready. I usually wait till right after Thanksgiving, but man, he's been pushing for it. So I think it might be early this year. That's good. All right. Well, anyway, here we are at Life Talks today, and we're not talking about Thanksgiving, and we're not talking about Christmas. We're going to talk about how full is your vessel. How full is your vessel? So our key passage is Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 through 13, but I'm not going to read all of that. That's the parable of the 10 virgins. But I will read, verse 13 says, "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming." This is not a fear tactic today.
No.
It's not what it's about. Watch therefore, you know neither the day nor the hour. So are you ready, or are you running on empty? Are you ready, or are you running on empty? Jesus often used stories to reveal spiritual truths about readiness and relationship. In this parable, 10 virgins are waiting for the bridegroom to arrive. All had lamps.
Yes.
All had the same opportunity.
I'll have expectation.
All were expecting him to come, but only 5 were ready when he actually did come. The difference wasn't in what they held in their hands. It was what they carried within their vessel. 5 had vessels full of oil, and 5 let the oil run out. This parable is more than a warning about the end times.
Right.
So I just said it's a mirror for our walk with God right now.
That's it.
The real question Jesus asked in the story is, how full is your vessel? So why do you think, I'm going to start right here with the panel, and then we'll go to the next section, but why do you think Jesus used the imagery of oil, lamps, and waiting to describe spiritual readiness?
Well, because lamps and oil were what lit your way in the night. And so it was in the nighttime hour that he came. So the Bible said, in an hour that you think not. Jesus gave a lot of parables about the things that happened at night. The traveler came in the middle of the night, and he goes to his friend, knocks on the door until he finally gets up and says, "Hey, give me some provisions." We think about that in an era of GPS. We think of that where you can share your ETA with someone.
Yeah.
You put your deal in maps or whatever, and there's a deal, and you can share your ETA on their text in text messages, and they pop it up, and then they'll know exactly when you're going to get there. Not so in those days where there was neither GPS nor was there cell phones and phones of any sort. And so basically people got there when they got there. That's why there's so many of the stories and it probably resonated, I believe very much resonated with their culture, because when Jesus tells these stories, probably every one of them had at some point some example of some family member or some, some person who got there in the middle of the night, and the whole family gets up. And we experienced that. We experienced that, but we started evangelizing sort of at the very beginning days of cell towers, right? And
we had the big old atlas.
Right, a map.
Big old map.
Maps. Yeah.
We really did.
We had like
used them.
physical map, and our heart would be pounding because we'd have we had a diesel truck, and everybody's like, don't ever run a diesel truck down to, don't ever run it out of fuel, because it'll suck water into your fuel pump, and then the next thing it's bad. And so anyway, so then we're freaking out, and I'm like, man, I hope this next exit has diesel, and so it was all of that. So I think the idea of coming in the night, the idea of you could be sleeping, it could be at any time. So readiness, watching, waiting is not something that's just sort of hyperbolic language. It's actual experiential language. And of course, oil is symbolic of the Spirit. Lamps are symbolic of that which gives you the ability to navigate the night. So to me, it all makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's go to point number 1 from what we talked about in our introduction. They all had lamps, every single one of them, but not all of them had the oil.
Yeah.
So every virgin in the story looked very prepared. They all had lamps, the visible symbol of faith that they could find their way. But only some had oil, the invisible evidence of spiritual life and intimacy with God. The point is, it's possible to look the part, to have the lamp of religion, reputation, routine, yet be spiritually empty inside. The wise brought extra oil because they knew the waiting season would test their supply.
That's so good. That right there is such a good. They knew the waiting season would test their supply.
The foolish
Holy
only
moly.
had enough for the moment. But when the wait stretched longer than expected, their light went out. Okay, so Matthew chapter 25, verse 8 said, "The foolish said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out.'" So let's say here, what does having oil represent for us today?
Yeah. Let's ask them.
Well, I don't have my phone, so if you want it,
Oh, you don't?
I grabbed the wrong purse when I walked out the door, unprepared. No, I have some stuff in one and some in the other, so I don't have my phone. So if you have something you want to comment, if you'll just raise your hand. But can somebody yell out, what does having oil represent for us today? Say it. Holy Ghost? Okay. Anybody else? Say it loud. Preparedness. Preparedness.
Yeah.
How can someone appear spiritually active, have that lamp, but still be running on empty? Can somebody help with that?
Well, I think it can be so easy to just go through the motions. I love this parable because it reiterates the fact that over and over, Jesus, throughout the New Testament, throughout the Gospels, explained that his return would be at an unexpected time.
That's what he said. In an hour you think not.
In an hour, you think not.
Yeah.
And I think, not to get off on a rabbit trail here, but I think we live in a culture where so many people are trying to find the day of the Lord's return. What is it? 88 reasons the Lord will return in 1988. But Jesus said it's going to be unexpected. And so what I think this parable shows is that, number one, we have to have a relationship with God that is fresh. We have to invest in it. We have to pour into it. We have to buy into it. The oil isn't free. Hello. The oil isn't free. But also I think it illustrates the fact that you have to always be ready no matter what. And in order to always be ready, you have to become the kind of person who just is always ready. You have to become the kind of person that is always ready to be responsive to the Lord, to be obedient to the Lord, to be committed, to be ready for every good work. And I think that's the thing we have to realize, is that the oil isn't free, and you have to put in the effort to be that, to live that. You have to die daily.
So our second point is the wise were prepared and they stayed filled. So the wise virgins anticipated the delay. Goes back to they anticipate. They didn't just start well, but they prepared to finish well. Oil represents the ongoing work of the Spirit in us. Prayer, obedience, worship, daily renewal. Paul said it this way: do not be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit. The verb be filled in the Greek implies continual action. Keep being filled. The wise didn't rely on yesterday's oil or encounter, but they continued in renewal.
Actually, that Greek word is a present. It's a future intensive, which is be filled and keep being filled.
Keep being filled.
Yeah.
Don't stop being filled. So, panel, what does it look like to keep oil in your vessel in everyday life?
Well, I think the thing about this, it relates to the last question as well, where the foolish were not disregarding of the scenario. Like, it's not like the foolish were bad.
No, they actually started with oil in their lamp. They had oil in their lamp.
They thought they had enough, and it was when the light was starting to go out that they realized, hey, give us some of your oil, and they wouldn't, because they're like, well, we don't know how much longer it's going to be, and which is interesting because, you know, if you think that what Jesus is teaching is generosity, then this parable would seem to be in conflict with Jesus' teaching of generosity. Yeah. Because if you have a loaf of bread and your neighbor has none, you know, this is the personal responsibility. Yeah. At the end of the day, I may be your pastor, but I'm not responsible for your walk with God. At the end of the day, you personally, it's not my responsibility. You know what? There comes a time as a parent, for example. There comes a time for a parent where basically you go by and you may knock on the door and say, hey, you better hurry up. It's time is, you know, whatever. But then there comes a time as a parent where you just say, you know what? They have an alarm clock. The alarm clock went off. You know what? If they're going to be late, if they miss the test, if they whatever, then I'll help them navigate the circumstances of that. You eventually, what has to happen is you get a person to a point where they work out their own salvation with fear and trembling. So I think that's an important piece. Yeah. Why somebody's asking, well, why didn't they share it? Like all could have been, you know, ready. But I think that for a modern context, I think in a modern context, so how does this relate to us? I think in a modern context, we have to be careful where in the Pentecostal church, there is a little bit of a tendency to go from Sunday to Sunday. Yeah. I think we better be careful in a Pentecostal context that people come to church on Sunday to get filled up and hope that they're still full by next Sunday. And I think that's an extremely dangerous way to live for God. I think that what really needs to happen is you know, how are you refilling on Tuesday? How are you refilling on Thursday? You know, that needs to be happening consistently. And if they had that kind of perspective, which goes back to how would they end up like that in the last question? Yeah. Well, I think the way you end up like that is sometimes you just go about your business and you're busy and whatever, and you're like, you know what? When I start noticing I'm running on empty, I'm going to fill it back up. And my wife laughs at me because for me, when my vehicle gets less than half full, it's empty. She laughs at me. Because when my vehicle gets less than half full, I have to fill it up before I go home.
When mine has less than 3 miles to empty,
I know.
I fill it.
No.
I've actually driven on 0 miles to empty and made it.
Yeah, right.
But that's not true in this parable. This is not true.
I like to pull in. I don't even know why. I like to know that a feeling of satisfaction for me is when I pull my vehicle in the garage and it's full
and clean.
You know what? I don't wash my vehicle that I don't vacuum it, and I figure that it says something. My dad taught me when I was a kid that your vehicle and the way you treat your stuff and the way you dress and whatever says something about you. And so keep your car clean, keep your life clean, keep your mind clean. Constant state is all I'm saying. It's a constant state. You don't wait till you're like,
right.
I feel like I'm on empty here. I better hurry up and.
Okay, so our next point is going to speak to that. The foolish were empty when it counted. When the bridegroom finally came, the foolish realized too late that they had nothing left to burn. They tried to borrow oil, and the wise wouldn't give them any. A relationship with God can't be borrowed. Can't be imitated.
Oh, see, I'm sorry. I stole
That's
into
okay.
I stole
can't be
into your
shared.
third point.
It has to be personal.
Seeking forgiveness
But
from the moderator.
Right, but this is good. Being close to prepared people does not prepare you.
My goodness.
Being around spiritual fire does not fill your vessel.
Preach, woman of God.
You have to draw your own oil from God. So our scripture focus. Afterwards, the other virgins came also saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered, I do not know you. So we talked about people trying to borrow oil from others, which there's lots of reasons why. I mean, I would say, like you said, trying to go Sunday to Sunday and realizing in between, I'm out. What do you do? What happens when we mistake proximity to spiritual people for personal preparation?
I mean, we feel the warmth of someone else's fire and mistake it for as long as I'm warm, I guess, maybe. Yeah. It's possible. This might be this might be a very strange way to connect this, but when the 70 elders were chosen and there were prophets, or the people, some of the 70 elders weren't there, and they were prophesying. And people came to Moses and said, they're out there, the people are out there prophesying. You need to shut them down, and whatever. And Moses said, would to God that all God's people were prophets. And what Moses is saying is, if everybody was hearing from God, it made my job pretty easy. If everybody was hearing from God, we wouldn't need 70 elders. If everybody was praying and fasting and seeking God and getting revelation, you see what I'm saying? Like Moses is like, put me out of a job. Right? Like put me out of a job. I'm fine with that. And I think that in this, there's a similar scenario here. There's like the questions that you asked. That, like what Moses is saying is if everybody had their own fire, if everybody had their own. Now, I understand there's giftings, like in the New Testament church. I'm not speaking of a scenario that's possible. Right? I'm not saying, he's saying, I would to God that all God's people were prophets. It's not going to happen, but he's saying, I wish that were the case. And I understand in a church that you've got giftings and that the Bible talks about the supply that comes from each joint. Yeah. That the body supplies to, and God's given the gifts several as he will so that we would need each other. And so I understand all of that. But by the same perspective, it's not good enough, for example, for the pastor to get up and have a revelatory word and say, well, that's good enough for me for another week, where that's an important part of our experience with God. The question is, okay, now how are you going to take that and make that something that you munch on and something that goes off into your own personal life?
Yes, so on and so forth. Wednesday night, I taught our young people about just how to read the Bible. Yeah. And one of the questions that I said you have to ask yourself every time is, what am I going to do about this?
Right.
How am I going to activate it? And I think going back to just some of our culture, going from Sunday to Sunday to Sunday, we have become oftentimes comfortable with consuming information rather than experiencing transformation.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, okay, I've heard this prophetic word from the Lord, but how is God asking me to act upon it?
That's the thing.
Yeah, I have borrowed faith can glow for a moment, but it can't burn through the night.
And it is important for us to come together, just like it's it's important to come together and see. This is the thing, because the answer isn't rugged individualism. No. The answer is that, you know, it is beautiful for somebody to come and come over and sit in front of the fireplace and sip, you know, hot cocoa and talk about the goodness of the Lord and those kinds of things, and walk away saying, you know what, I was refreshed by that. I was renewed by that. But I believe that when people have their own walk with God, that it also is not only does it have a personally positive effect, but it also allows us to have a healthy dependence upon one another, a biblically healthy dependence, where if a person goes into, say, false doctrine or gets off the rails, you can mourn that while it not destroying your own personal faith. So there's so many different ways why this is so important and vital, because the reason why I bring that up, you're like, well, what does that have to do with the wise and foolish virgin? Well, I think it has everything to do with the fact that the context of the five wives and foolish virgins has its setting in that he's coming back. And the scripture, so what is the milieu of the environment of his return? Except the days be shortened, even the very elect should be deceived. Right. So it has this idea that says, what are all of the important reasons why I should have my own? If I go over to my friend's house to enjoy the fireplace and hang out and whatever, because I have no electricity and have no heat at my house, that isn't a long-term good plan. I need to go enjoy what my neighbor has so that next week my neighbor can come and enjoy what I have. That's a healthy dependence, not my electric got turned off and I don't have any natural gas, and I don't have any wood, and I didn't prepare any wood for the wood. And you know, same kind of, you see what I'm saying, and building the same thing. You know, you're coming over and warming up at my fire.
And I think this all goes back to an Old Testament principle where God provided the fire for the altar, but it was the people's job to provide the sacrifice.
That's very good. Okay, the door was shut. That's the next part of it. The door was shut. So readiness matters. When the bridegroom arrived, the wise went in, and the door was shut. The message is sobering. There comes a time when preparation is no longer possible. This isn't just about the final coming of Christ. It's about every moment of divine opportunity. There are seasons, callings, and moments of breakthrough that require us to be ready in advance.
That's just good. That's just good.
Yes. How does
I don't even want to comment on it, because it's just, I want that to just sit there. Like, there comes a time when it's like,
Jesus' return isn't just a future event. It's a present reality that shapes how we live today. We have to be full, because the time will come.
There is no purgatory. The Bible says, as a tree falls, so shall it lie.
Absolutely. So let's talk about living full. Let's go practical rhythms, okay? How to keep your oil in your vessel. Check your vessel every single day.
Good.
Ask yourself, am I full? Am I half full?
Yeah.
Am I running low? Yeah. And it's your responsibility to say, okay, I've got to get it filled. Yeah. Stay filled with the Spirit. Make worship, prayer, and scripture your daily refueling every day. Guard your flame. Don't let distractions, don't let discouragement, don't let mistakes drain your oil.
Right.
Live alert. Readiness is...
Oh, wait. That was good, what you just said. That was good. You said don't let mistakes, don't let distractions. So that's really good. Because sometimes people, because of shame and guilt, sometimes people, right? You don't show up at the table because you don't feel, either you don't want to answer the questions. That's the thing, that we got to have the kind of relationship where you still show up at the table because you're like, you know what? I know I'm going to get asked the questions, but they love me.
It's that important.
Yeah.
That my vessel stays full.
Mm-hmm.
Live alert. Readiness is not fear. It's love in action, staying close to the bridegroom.
It's good.
Live alert. So let's think, and you can think to yourself, because I think it's going to be different for every person. What's one practical way that you can refill your vessel this week?
It's good.
So you can think through that.
And by the way, I think it is important at this point to say that the Bible does say, "Given it shall be given to you." Don't automatically default to, I need to read my Bible more. I need to. How am I going to get refilled? I need to read my Bible. I need to pray more. I need to, all those things. Do the spiritual discipline things. Sometimes the way that we get refilled is by emptying ourselves in service to others. Do you see what I'm saying? You give your life. Let your light so shine before men that they glorify your Father in heaven. It's really, really hard to get to the point where you realize, oh crud, I'm running out of oil, when you realize how many people are depending on the light that oil is producing. I'm going to stay full because I've got this one, and I got this one, and I got this one, and I got this one depending upon me.
You automatically have everyone in your home depending on you. Sometimes you think people outside, but think about your home and think about your children. Think about your husband, your wife. You've got to have oil. You've got to have light for them, right? And so you're also sharing it outside of your home. So you have to stay full.
Yep, that's very true.
The difference between the wise and the foolish wasn't what they carried in their hand. They all had a lamp. It was what they carried in their hearts. When Jesus comes, whether in the clouds or in a calling or in a moment of opportunity, will he find us burning bright or barely flickering or out? Yeah. Is your light going to be out? If the bridegroom came tonight, would my lamp still be burning or would it be going out? Every flame fades without oil. Every believer burns brighter when filled. The question is not whether you have a lamp. I know every single person in here has a lamp. The question is, how full is your vessel?
And on that closing thought, I know it's 10:32, but he says, a bruised reed shall he not break. This is a prophecy concerning Jesus. A bruised reed shall he not break, nor smoking flax quench, until he send forth judgment. Jesus is in the process of restoring. Yeah. And the smoking flax is literally talking about the wick of a lamp. And the first thing that a lamp does as it begins to go out is it has enough oil left and enough heat on the wick to smolder and produce smoke.
So a little bit of blow, a little bit of breath and wind.
Well, I'm saying also that that there is a built-in mechanism to this metaphor that says, you know, before your oil goes completely out, you start smoking. Not, you know. I mean, maybe that too. I don't know. You know, I don't know, but you start smoking. The fire becomes something that sort of represents where the fire was, and it causes you to go, bro, I better get on this. Sometimes you know the fire's going out. Sometimes you have a bonfire or you have a fireplace, and you begin to know that the fire is going out. How do you know the fire is going out? Not always because you stop seeing the flame. Not always because you stop feeling the warmth. Those are examples or ways. But also sometimes because there's not enough heat to create a proper draft, and you start noticing that the smoke of the fire is kind of filling the room a little bit. And you're like, it smells smoky. And you look over and you're like, oh. And you go put another log on the fire, and you get the billows, and you fire it back up a little bit, and then it gets the heat enough to get the draft, and it pulls the smoke out of the room. The smoke is going to be a first evidence that you better get the fire going again. You better get some more fuel. Because everything is, you've been burning on empty, you've been doing the stuff, and sometimes, here's the deal, sometimes it's not just posers and fakers. This is the thing I want the people of God to realize. It's not just posers and fakers. It's not just hypocrites and mask wearers. It's people who have so many things going on. Talk about burning the candle at both ends. That eventually what happens is it's like, hey, that amount of oil lasted last time for 2 weeks, but you're burning so much oil right now with all the stuff that you got going on in your life. I had a meeting, amazing breakfast. I told you about that. This is the one thing that I didn't tell. I had a lunch with Brian Parkey. He's the district superintendent. Brother Parkey's the district superintendent of Missouri. I had breakfast with him on Friday morning. And so he told me, he said, hey, he said, you know, that your name came up. I've been nominated to be on the Urshan University Board of Directors, right? And so he was talking about our podcast. He was talking about Urshan University. And then we got a phone call to go to Canada to do Momentum Conference in January. And we got whatever. And we were just talking. We were talking about the podcast. We were talking about the stuff and so on and so forth. And he looked at me and he said, hey, Ken, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, where are you creating margin in your life to refuel and to rest? That's a friend that looks across the table at me at breakfast and said, where are you creating margin in your life to refuel and to rest? Thank you, Brother Parkey.
Absolutely.
Because he was saying, you're burning.
You're burning.
The amount of oil that 5 years ago in your ministry might have lasted this much, it's not going to last that much in this season.
Yeah.
That's a good friend.
That is a good friend. So we're asking you today, where are you finding space in your life to refuel and to rest? Right? Oh man, that was good today. How full is your vessel? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself throughout the day, this week, how full is your vessel? We all want to be full. We want to be ready with whatever he has for us. Yes. And when he comes, we want to be ready. All right, well, it's time. So we're going to end this today, and we will be back in here at 11 o'clock. We'll have some music on to have prayer, and then you still have time to get your children at 10:45. We'll